Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic is one game that resonated with fans of the series and others who were unfamiliar to the IP. After release, KOTOR would receive many awards such as BAFTA Game Awards Best Xbox Game of the Year. Nowadays, people often look back at the KOTOR series with fond memories. The lack of new Star Wars games releasing, I find myself going back to play some of these oldies but goodies. I want to revisit KOTOR but with a twist, our very own melee only challenge. Let's jump into the rules. Starting things off, I'm only allowed to use melee weapons. There are plenty of melee weapons such as lightsabers, vibroblades, and more unique weapons such as Baka's blade and so on. This will be interesting to try since we will be really ineffective against groups of enemies, especially when it's a blaster and melee squad combo. Because melee weapons are the only things that can be used, all grenades, blasters, and force powers cannot be used. In the previous round of KOTOR videos, I gave myself an exception to the aforementioned rule by using non-damaging force powers. This video and then the subsequent KOTOR 2 video, I will not be using any. No implants, visors, gauntlets, and belt modifiers are allowed, to make things much more difficult for our main character alongside his allies. The game will be played on the difficult difficulty, which is equivalent to hard mode in other games. Difficulty cannot be changed during the run. Let me briefly explain some of the changes between normal and hard mode. The changes between normal and hard mode are typical things that you'd find, such as damage received is increased, enemies have more health, and so on. There's some other changes that hard difficulty includes. If you are interested, I'll link this post down below that explains things in detail. Next, we must beat the game. KOTOR has many planets and things to do on each one, so we have to conquer each challenge as we go. Lastly, glitches and our exploits are allowed, so expect some cheeky ways to take down bosses and get around areas. The KOTOR series are such awesome games, and so I'm super excited to share this next round of challenge runs with everyone. Let me know down below if you'd like to see more KOTOR content in the future. Similarly to the first set of videos, I'll be showcasing the challenge alongside the story in this video. It's meant for those who are unfamiliar to the game and its storyline, alongside showing new possible quest lines for those who have played it multiple times. A couple of years ago, I played KOTOR 1 and 2 for the first time and was extremely happy I wasn't spoiled the story beforehand. Because of this, I think it would make the video much more interesting to talk about the story and challenge side by side. The KOTOR 1 Blasters Only challenge I went through and was as light-sided as I could be. This will be quite the opposite in this video, suffering, anger, and the dark side fueling my expeditions. If you haven't seen the KOTOR 1 and 2 Blaster Challenge, I'll link them in the description and up above for those who missed it. Make sure to smash the like button, comment, and subscribe if you haven't yet. Without further ado, let's get into the run. Starting things off, I went through the character creator screens and filled out the stats where melee weapons would excel. Strength is a must for lightsabers and similar weaponry. Previously, when I went through KOTOR 1, doing the Blasters Challenge, I was a bit naive to the various weapon levels and mismanaged my stats. Many commenters reached out to inform me of how I could better optimize my stats in the future. So the KOTOR 2 video, I learned my lesson. Waking up on the Endar Spire, Trask, one of the ship's crewmates, talks with us regarding the current situation. Conversing with him, we learned that we are under attack from the Sith fleet, need to leave using the escape pods. I think it's quite hilarious that he's also the tutorial for the player, which when I first played was jarring but funny as hell. Receiving a message from Carth Onasi, a Republic pilot, we learn that things aren't going so well and we need to leave immediately. This is the point where we can roam around and equip our weapons. Very early on, we can see the disadvantages to all parties using melee only. First is that since these enemies are all blasters, our party has to walk to them to engage, versus the Sith troopers that can tag us as we are running towards them. I lost a bunch of health very quickly and knew instantaneously that this challenge was going to be a lot tougher than I anticipated. Second is that having a party with a variety of abilities and weapons is excellent for most, if not all, situations in the game. Force powers such as Force Lightning and Fear are excellent for crowd control, but we aren't allowed to use those abilities. Now we are bottlenecked into using melee weapons, where we have to sprint over to the enemy. Sooner or later, we end up at the bridge and a fight breaks loose. This was a quick fight, and afterwards we gained our first level. I end up putting this point towards the toughness perk, which will make the playable character much more tank-like. Dark Jedi soon spots us, and Trask, being the hero he is, says he will distract him while we move ahead. You'll never forget your sacrifice, Trask. Rip, my boy. Afterwards, the player has to go through solo to the escape pods. Thankfully, there were only a few enemies here, but dang did they hit quite hard. Ultimately, we reach the escape pods where we find Carth Onasi, the Republic soldier on the intercom from earlier. He quickly says we need to get out of here, but not throwing out some beats first.
Basila's escape pod's already gone, so Basil.
Cutscene plays shortly afterwards, showing the player and Karth crash landing on the planet terrace below.
Another happy landing.
In Recovery, our character has a dream or premonition that a Jedi and Sith are battling out on a cruiser. What could this mean? Who were the people involved? Well, let's keep going and looking for answers. Once we awaken, Karth and the player converse and talk about what just occurred. He explains that Terrace is a Sith-occupied world and the last place the two of you should be in. Talking about our dream, we learn that the Jedi we saw in it was Bastila, one of the Strike team members that killed Darth Revan, aka Darth Malak's master. Karth goes on to further explain how vital Bastila is to the war effort, and that our main priority needs to be finding and rescuing her. Before heading out to investigate Terrace for Bastila, Karth gives us one last piece of advice, stating to not do anything stupid, as the Dark Jedi have horrendous interrogation techniques, so much so that it can remove memories and wipe your very identity. We'll have to be extra cautious not to alert the local Sith troops of our presence. Leaving the apartment room, we are spotted by a Sith patrol who set their crosshairs on the playable character. Let's just say I might have had more than a scratch on me by the end. I mentioned at the beginning that in this playthrough, I'll engage in more dubious and evil actions, like the Blasters Only challenge run in this game, where I was as light-sided as possible. This will be interesting since I've only completed the good ending on this game, and the evil ending for KOTOR 2. When I go through that, I will be doing the good ending. Ultimately, this will allow me to see new quest lines and a different conclusion to the game. One such instance of a different quest line was going through the various bounties and collecting them. First bounty to collect is nearby to the starting area. Usually the player will try to get the bounty taken off of her. She is a good person actually, but not in this playthrough. Karth was not too happy about that one, to say the least. Eventually I made my way out of the upper apartment complexes and went into the cantina. Talking with one of the NPCs, the player is able to engage in arena combat. This, I have to say, is super fun and easily makes the beginning section of this game one of the more fun areas in my opinion. Deadeye Duncan went down without giving me anything to worry about. Girl on Two Fingers was a bit more difficult, so was defeated swiftly. Ice was the last opponent that I decided to go for, at least for the moment. It was extremely difficult, and I knew that if I did defeat her, I would have to wait to take down the rest of the opponents, cause yeah, it would just be so damn difficult. One thing a commenter mentioned in the KOTOR 1 Blasters challenge has been extremely useful is menu healing. Previously, I was only healing through the action menu, which took time for the characters to go through their animations. This lets the player get a quick heal in and still deal damage that turn. Let me know down below if you have any tips or tricks you have for either game, as this would greatly benefit me. Sooner or later, Ice gets taken down and we receive a large sum of money as a reward. In a local shop, I bought a bunch of med packs alongside getting some tanky armor. If we're not using implants and all the other attachments, I really needed to capitalize on a higher defense armor set. As I was walking around, I ended up making my way into the medical bay and spoke with the lead scientist. Almost as soon as we meet him, he mentions to us of a Rakghoul disease. This disease infects an individual by a Rakghoul. Eventually, the infected individual mutates themselves into a Rakghoul, and the cycle continues. He asks for our help retrieving the serum for the disease. As we are leaving, his lab assistant stops us and also asks for the serum. Instead of making it cheap and readily available like the lead scientist would, the lab assistant would offer basically a large sum of money and, just keep it just for the higher ups of Terrace. Ultimately, we accept since we are doing a dark-sided run, alongside needing the money in the early game badly. Nearby to the medical bay is a different apartment complex to the one we started in. Here we can find Sith troopers interrogating a local. Normally the player would step in to save them, but not this time. Eventually, the Sith troopers grow weary of us, and another fight breaks loose. Because we took them down, we are able to collect their Sith armor. Ultimately, it will let us sneak behind enemy lines. Afterwards, in a nearby apartment, another bounty can be collected. Even though these bounties offer quite small sums, early game this is a game changer. Because we collected the Sith trooper armor from earlier, we're able to go down to the lower levels of Terrace. As soon as we go down, we are immediately ambushed by one of the lower city gangs, thinking that we are Sith, which makes sense. Battle breaks out, and I end up taking a fair amount of damage. It's quite apparent in a melee only run that the party characters will be taking a lot of damage since they have to run up to the enemies quite often while they wail on the party members. In the KOTOR games, there's a lot to do, and that is an understatement. From the various mainline quests to the more niche side ones, there's hours and hours of content to do. With this, I won't be showing everything in this video. Instead, I'll be covering the major story beats and highlights, similar to the Blasters Only video. If you're interested to check out the full challenge run, alongside others that I post, head over to the VODs channel. Here I post unedited streams, the KOTOR challenges to Sekiro AP1, you can find it all there. Let's get it up to 200 subs. Making our way to the lower level cantina, we meet Calo Nord, shortly after entering. He was one of the galaxy's most feared bounty hunters by this point in time, so I made sure to not piss him off. At another table, we meet Mission and Zalbar, two scavengers trying to make life possible here on Terrace. Conversing with them, we learn a bit more about how brutal it is to live here, especially if you are not in the upper city. Ultimately, we say that we will see each other around. Last thing we'll have to do in this cantina is talking with Zax, local bounty hunter informant. At this point, we have collected a few bounties that we are able to turn in for credits and XP. It will most definitely help us in the later Terrace section. The Hidden Beck base is close by, and so I stopped in for a visit and conversed with our leader, Gadden. For a long back and forth explaining our situation, crash landing, Basila, etc. He offers to help us, but only if we help him. He requested for us to join in the swoop racing tournament, and if we win, we would free Basila. First though, we need to get the swoop accelerator, since the Black Vulkars stole it. Accepting his request, we set off to retrieve the accelerator. Battling out with some of the Black Vulkar members, afterwards we listen in on a conversation with one of the lieutenants and some people that owe them money. Gander swings through when they are giving him a hard time about paying him. Since they don't want to deal with the Mandalorian, they quickly pay the lieutenant. Finally making our way to the lowest levels of Terrace, we see the living conditions. Those unfortunate enough to live down here have to endure the rampant Rakul disease alongside the famine and poverty. That's not mentioning how cruel the Sith troopers are. Speaking with Rukiel, a preacher for the people in the lowest levels, he mentions a long-lost promised land. He sent his assistant to retrieve the journals pertaining to its location. He has not yet returned. Ultimately, he asks us to find his assistant and the journals, which we accept. Spoke with the remaining village members, then set off outside the compound. At the gate, two village members can be found, one protecting and operating the gate, another calling out to Hendar, who is outside. He begs for us to open the gate for him. It allows us a choice. There have been a few examples previously, but let me explain for those unfamiliar. Generally, when the player is engaging in dialogue, there are three options: a good or light-sided choice, a neutral one, and lastly an evil or dark-sided comment. This gives the player many options during their playthroughs and makes each playthrough feel very unique. We'll talk more about the various dialogue options throughout the video. Once we are out of the village, Mission comes out running and begging for our help. After hearing what just happened, she explains that Zalbar was taken captive Morian slavers and is being held in the sewer system. Parth and the playable character offer their help. We set off to find clues. Mission is now in our party, and so we have a third ally. She's quite low HP and strength and is more so a blaster user, so she is quite ineffective. Because we are in the lowest levels of Terrace, we encounter numerous Rakul monsters roaming about, hungry for our heads. Here we can find a few items. First is one of the long-lost Promised Land journals that Rukiel mentioned. Second is the Rakul serum. Now we will have the option to give it to the scientists or deliver it to Zax as mentioned by his lab assistant. Eventually we made our way down to the sewer system. Immediately we were greeted with Gamorreans with axes raised high. As we were making our way through the sewers, let's talk about the run so far and plans for the late game section. So far we do not have the most optimal equipment, armor, and upgrades. Using my turn-by-turn and various random pieces of evidence that I picked up on my playthroughs, it has been doable. Improved Critical Strike I found to be extremely useful during the early game sections, and also in some of the later ones as well. His feat I found to be super underrated compared to the other option. There are 3 levels to this, starting with a basic, then improved, and finally when the player masters it. Going up each tier will increase the critical threat range, ultimately resulting in more damage. The useful aspect of this ability is that it has a chance to stun enemy targets. That being said, there is a downside, which is that the player has reduced defense when this feat is used. While this is far from the best ability in KOTOR, it was surely effective at taking down the Gamorreans. Arthur, this early section, has not been pleased with most of our actions and voices his concerns quite often. Soon we will be getting more allies to join us, with some of them being excellent melee fighters. Planning for the endgame sections, I started to level up the toughness stat and others similarly like it across the characters. This was to make my allies and playable character much more tanky to the high damage that will be coming our way shortly. Because we cleaned the sewers of the Gamorreans, we were able to rescue Zalbar, and once safe, he pledges a life debt to us. Vowing his words are as strong as the roots of the great Warshire trees of Kashyyyk. He says he will follow us wherever we go. Mission talks to us and says that since we helped save Zalbar, she will help us enter the Black Vulkar base. Soon thereafter, we ventured towards the upper sections of the sewer, and what is that? Yeah, this is gonna be a fun time. In the Blasters Only challenge, I had a tough time dealing with this beast and ended up resorting to just using a grenade, basically going against the rules. After reading through your comments, I found out that it is possible to bypass the Rancor or wail on him from afar for an extremely long time. The second attempt, I was able to walk right past him, strangely because I used the odor. The first time around, I was cloaked and tried walking past, but got deleted immediately. This is interesting to know. Afterwards, Mission has to solo 2 enemies, and this was the tough part. Mission doesn't really have much health, is not an ideal melee only character. Because this, I really had to fight the game in order to make this fight go my way. Methodical use of the menu for healing was really going to be a game changer here. Let Mission stay in the fight for longer. Didn't help that nearly every attack she would miss. Definitely made this a nail-biting moment. After defeating the 2 enemies, things still weren't over. Even though we don't need to kill the Rancor, we have to get past them. Found a few things of note. The player interacts with the rubble pile while their allies are down. This will resurrect them with 1 HP. Found a very similar exploit in KOTOR 2 when I was in the large hangar with that tank droid. Put a clip of it now to showcase it, but in both situations, it appears when the player interacts with certain objects, the game will bring back all party members that were down. Lastly, getting around the Rancor was a nightmare. But do you have to get around him again, Skilled Fawn? Well, the player and all allies have to be at the same door to jump to the next location. Because of this, I either need to solo with the playable character or needed Karth and Mission to somehow make it pass. Definitely not the last option. I ended up using the trial and error method to best see how I could progress. Ultimately, the years of COD zombies paid off, and I was able to train the Rancor getting past them. Now we are able to enter the Black Vulkar's base, the people who kidnapped Bastila. Go through the base, Black Vulkar soldiers attempt to stop us as we go through the facility. Taking them down, one pleads with us to stop, saying that the Black Vulkars used to mean something honorable, but now the new leader has lost his way. He has to let him go, but yeah man, I'm sorry. In this playthrough, you're gonna be super evil, so yeah, you just gotta go. Deep within the base, we come across Camden and his personal unit of Black Vulkar troops. Conversing with him, he tries to pull us towards the Black Vulkars, essentially to remove ties with Gadden and make him weaker. While we are already here, might as well not change plans and
kill him. Kill him now.
Fight breaks loose and things really start to get heated up. Blaster bolts go everywhere as my allies try to dodge, duck, and weave through the other enemy's melee attacks. In the end, we recovered the prototype swoop accelerator, so let's return to Gadden. Before heading to the hidden Beck base, I ended up doing a few things first. Initially, I visited the lower cantina again, this time to turn in the Rakghoul serum that the lab assistant mentioned earlier. Next was returning to the lower city village. I defeated the infected individuals with the Rakghoul disease, further embracing the dark side. Then I turned in the journals to Rukiel. Thought about turning them into the other guy since he offered credits and was the dark-sided choice. It was only 100 credits per journal, so yeah, we are gonna bypass handing it to him. Getting to the hidden Beck base, Gadden is thrilled to hear that we have returned with the swoop accelerator. He vows to uphold his end of the deal, and so the next day we will be in the tournament, aiming to rescue Bastila. Our character wakes up from a restless night and yet prepared to rescue her at all costs. Getting to the tournament, we enter into the swoop races. It's one of my favorite aspects of this game, especially side content wise. Let me explain how it works. The player needs to get from the start to the finish, point A to B rather than a circuit race. As players are going through, they need to be mindful of their speeds and shift accordingly. Think of it like a Star Wars drag race. Boost pads, obstacles, and various ships will be along the race path. Make sure to be extra careful. Even though this game mode is niche, it is awesome to play through each time. Definitely floods me with memories of playing Episode 1 Racer on the N64 when I was a kid. For winning the tournament, Brejik, leader of the Black Vulkars, presents the champion's prize. Before giving us the prize, he announces to everyone that he suspects us to be cheating. He claims that the prototype accelerator is an unfair advantage and a fight breaks loose. In a restrained state, Bastila is able to escape her cage and fight alongside us, which is pretty cool. It's such a funny fight since it's a 2-on-6, they just get absolutely shredded. Afterwards, we speak with Bastila. I always find this interaction hilarious since Bastila basically says she didn't need us. I'll just let a few of the dialogue chains play right now.
Save me. Is that what you were trying to accomplish by riding in that swoop race? Well, as far as rescues go, this is a pretty poor example. In case you hadn't noticed, I managed to free myself from that neural restraint collar without your help. In fact, it's more accurate to say that I saved you.
In another dream sequence, we see more glimpses into it. Bastila and a squad of Jedi Knights taking on Darth Revan. We have to speak with her at an appropriate time regarding this. Karth, Bastila, and the playable character talk about recent events and plans to get off the planet. Bastila and Karth have a bit of a back and forth, which builds tension and an understanding between them. In the end, we step out of the apartment with a plan to leave Terrace once and for all. Stepping outside our apartment, we get word from a local that Candaris Ordo would like to meet in the lower city cantina. We say we will see him shortly. One awesome thing about the KOTOR series is speaking with your allies and seeing them interact. This will happen at various sections and is super interesting to hear. I highly recommend you to listen if you decide to pick up the game for the first time, or if you've played multiple times, just maybe you'll pick up something that you haven't heard before and whatnot. Entering the lower city cantina, Canderous welcomes us and says that he has a plan to escape Terrace after enough chit-chatting. He tells us these plans because he needs our help and can't do it alone. But tell him we have some other things we need to take care of before we can leave. That being finishing the arena fights. Ultimately, there was one opponent left, Bendak Starkiller, a force of nature. He is not to be underestimated. Before we can fight him, the cantina needs to drum up some hype regarding the fight though. Entering the Sith base to obtain the launch codes, we quickly see how tough this area is going to be. From numerous enemies, ranged blasters, and force users, things were going to be difficult. As we were going through the Sith base, let's talk about a few things. At this point in time, I'm switching and using Bastila for a few reasons. First is that she has a ton of force powers in her base kit. Unlike KOTOR 2, can't tell a party member to behave for a certain role, such as like a Jedi healer, range, or aggressive. Because of this, I didn't want to risk her using any force abilities during the run, so that's why I'm using her all the time. Second is that she has the best melee weapon by this point in the game, and is locked for her use only. Since we were talking about force powers, let's broaden the focus. Even something as simple as using the heal power extremely underrated. Not being able to heal and buff has made fights much more challenging. Since I cannot use force heal, I made sure to stock up on a ton of heals, using most of the reward money from Terrace. This might have been a bit overkill, but all I'll say for now is wait until the end for your answer. Though we haven't used it much, using a workbench to modify and customize melee weapons drastically will improve their damage range, and critical hit bonus. From vibration cells to the lightsaber crystals, there are countless possibilities to mix and match mods on a melee weapon. In the end, we make it to the top of the Sith base, where a Dark Jedi awaits us. This was quite a tough fight, mostly because he would spam Force Siphon, gaining health by siphoning away from all allies. I really had to exploit the healing from the menu to get the most out of each turn. Eventually we take him down and obtain the launch codes. One of the last things we will do on Terrace is defeat Bendak Starkiller in an arena fight. This time though, it's a match to the death, compared to before where people would get knocked out. Remember from my previous playthroughs of how difficult this fight can be, since Bendak is proficient in range and melee combat, deals insane damage, and has high health. To take him down, I really had to strategize and get the best possible use out of each turn. Sooner or later, we defeat Bendak Starkiller, earning a large reward from the organizer alongside collecting his bounty. Finally, after all of our efforts on Terrace, we now have the opportunity to escape. Canderous explains the plan. Essentially, we will be going to his employer pretending to be a new hire. Afterwards, we would steal the Ebon Hawk, employer's flagship, since its speed is needed to escape the Sith AA fire. Canderous joins our squad and we set off for the estate. Because we have been making a fuss on Terrace, some of the high Sith members have taken notice of our actions. Cutscene plays and shows Darth Maul giving orders to the Admiral to destroy the planet and wipe Bastila from the face of it. Cautiously accepts, but states that time is needed to move the fleet into position. At Davik's estate, Canderous and I converse with him as he gives us a tour of the facility. At the end of the tour, he tells us to wait as he conducts background checks. Yeah, we will not be waiting here for that. Leaving the room to steal the Ebon Hawk, numerous bounty hunters try to stop us in our tracks. Ultimately, when we get down to the ship, Davik and Calo Nord are arriving just at the same time to escape the Sith bombing that started raining down. They noticed we were also trying to use the ship, so a fight breaks loose. We defeat Davik, but when we were about to take down Calo, a bunch of steel bars come crashing down and pinned him. With no more resistance, we steal the ship and get the hell out of there. On the Ebon Hawk, Karth, Bastila, Mission, Zalbar, and the playable characters speak about what we should do next. Bastila suggests that we should go to Dantooine to visit the Jedi Enclave and speak with the Masters there. Ultimately, that's what we do. Arriving on Dantooine, we see rows of green landscapes on the horizon. This is a nice change of pace to the more Coruscant-like world of Terrace, just more structures and is more mechanical. Bastila says that we must speak with the Jedi Council, that it is imperative that we go in alone. Quite a strange request, but we accept. Before heading further into the Enclave, I visited the local merchant. Sold my useless gear such as ranged weapons, items such as grenades and stims. Lastly was extra armor that had low defense ratings. Ultimately, I had a fair amount of credits to spend afterward, so I added some new weapons to my arsenal. As we approach the Jedi Council, there's another Jedi that mistakes us for being one. She thinks that this is a joke, but we convince her otherwise. Remember this Jedi for a future questline. During the Master's Chambers, they speak with us saying that this is a rather special case. Each member introduces themselves and is glad to hear we are able to rescue Bastila. Rook and the other Jedi mention that they believe us to be Force sensitive, and some wish for us to be trained immediately. I really enjoy the various dialogue options between the Jedis in both KOTOR games, but I find these early moments in KOTOR 1 to be the best. For instance, you can straight up lie to them.
Do it. Good, Anakin, good.
After much debating between the council, Master Vandar agrees with Doric that we should be trained, as new recruits are needed to stand against Malak. They debate if Darth Revan is truly dead, what if he should return, among other things. Soon thereafter, they send us away to decide on a final choice. During that time, our character receives another dream or Force vision. This time, it's with Revan and Malak before they turn to the dark side, try to force their way into the ancient structure. We have to speak with Bastila and the Jedi Masters regarding this. The next day, we go back to the Enclave to where the Jedi Masters reside. Talking with them about the dream or vision, suspected those ancient ruins to be nothing important, but would like us to eventually investigate, only after completing our training. Let the montage commence. This is about the point where we need to recite the core tenets of being a Jedi, collect a lightsaber crystal, and craft our very own lightsaber. Jedi request one last thing before they send us to investigate the ancient ruins. They say we must go to the nearby grove and cleanse the dark side taint from the land. Without any other context, we are hesitant, but accept. Leaving the Enclave, we meet more than a few NPCs who all have various side quests that we will go through as we explore the Kunda Plains. Oh gosh, the plentiful amount of cat hounds spread about was a nightmare. As a wise Palpatine once said,
Wipe them out. All of them.
So that's what I did. While we were exploring the Kunda Plains, let's reflect on the new gear and abilities we have unlocked. Most importantly is that we are now able to use and wield a lightsaber. Lightsabers generally have a higher damage and critical range compared to other weapons, so we should start seeing some high damage numbers soon. Next is the Force Jump. While Force powers are outright banned in the rules, technically Force Jump isn't a Force ability, rather an additional modifier to the base attack that the player can select. To explain, if the player is a decent ways away from the enemy, they will do a massive lunge, closing the gap. This is auto-upgraded when the player receives a lightsaber, so even if I didn't want to use it, I can. I personally think that this isn't cheating or going against the rules as mentioned earlier, but I'd be curious to hear your thoughts below. Next is while I was on Terrace, I was using shields. I mentioned all the other items and equipables to be things banned in the challenge, but excluded shields. This was for a few reasons, but mostly because I wasn't sure if things would get too difficult, so it'd be kind of like a failsafe. From Dantooine onwards, I used the shields very minimally, if not ever again. I mentioned early on how important it is to purchase healing items from the merchants. Since I cannot use Force Heal, this has been rather tough early on. It's important to note that the regular med packs offer the lowest amount of HP restored. Eventually we will get the Advance and Life Support packs, but for now, these will have to do. Because the Jedi Masters told us to complete our training, we conclude our first expedition of the plains at the Dark-Sided Grove. Here we can find a fallen Jedi named Juhani, who attacks us at first glance. It's actually super easy, and I end up destroying her quite quickly. She tries to surrender, but then I told her,
Now you will experience the full power of the dark side.
Ultimately, we take her down, but usually the player will befriend her and she will become their ally. Put up a separate clip now to show you the differences. Now that we've completed the Jedi trials, let's return to the Enclave. As we go back to the Enclave, I finished some of the quest lines over the course of the first expedition, one of which was destroying this droid to get dark-sided points, which I showcased earlier. Now we will have to finish the quest by speaking with her. Darth of course is not happy whatsoever, which makes perfect sense. I have to say that it is really cool seeing the playable character's icons shift as they go to the light or dark side. It gets way better, yet even more funny further throughout the game, which I won't spoil anything, but gosh, that end section. Inside the Enclave, the Jedi who spoke with us when we initially arrived is visually upset to hear that Juhani was slain. He questions us and our motivations. In the end, she storms away, completely frustrated. Talking with the Jedi Masters, we report past events with Juhani in the Dark-Sided Grove, claiming there was no other option. Eventually, the conversation shifts to the ancient ruins that Darth Revan and Malak went into. Previously, a Jedi was sent to investigate, but he did not come back. Now they are hoping we can provide the answers. Now on our second expedition, I went around finishing the remaining quest lines that I had started or just acquired, one of which was finishing the Mandalorians once and for all. These guys were extremely challenging with melee only. It took many attempts. This was a bit of foreshadowing for the endgame section. Next was the investigation between the two family estates on the Kunda Plains. Come to learn that the Sandrill's son had been murdered by the Calf Hounds, and his daughter confesses to him kidnapping Shen Matale, the other family's son. Going through the estate, there was an army of droids waiting for me.
Back to the scrap heap, Clanker.
Come across Shen Matale and convince him and the Sandral's daughter to escape since they profess their love for each other. Because we had that dream with Darth Revan and Malak, we need to investigate the ancient ruins to find what they uncovered. As we enter, a droid is nearby and tries to communicate with us by cycling through a variety of languages. When we are able to understand it, the droid states this temple was constructed by the great builders. Now this droid serves to guide future builders in need of something called the Star Forge. We'll have to investigate further. For now though, I continue talking with the droid, learning of the builders in the quote-unquote infinite empire. The droid reveals that it has been around for more than 20,000 years, 5,000 years older than the Republic itself. In the end, it reveals a way to open the final door within the ancient ruins. The playable character and his allies must go down the east and west doors, completing each puzzle. Both the east and west side paths have one droid guarding a console. It proved to be fairly straightforward. Once defeated, the player has to interact with the console and input the correct commands to get to the puzzle screen. On each side, it will ask the player to select different options. West side has the player select life-bearing planets, while the east side puzzle asks the player to select death-giving world types. Ultimately, we find out what this ancient ruin had hidden away, which was a star map fragment. This gave an individual a piece of a map to find the Star Forge. This time we have no idea what the Star Forge actually is, so we can only make educated predictions. On the star map, key planets have been marked such as Kashyyyk and Korriban. We'll have to investigate to find additional map fragments. We take this information and leave to inform the council. As we are approaching the Enclave, our playable character and Bastila take a moment to chat, specifically about the dream with Revan and Malak. I find it interesting how we both shared a common vision, that maybe we are connected somehow. Speaking with the Masters, we discuss our findings within the ruins. Masters agree that the Jedi shouldn't remain idle and need to find more information on the Star Forge. They send us on a special assignment to go to the other planets and uncover the remaining pieces to the puzzle. We would like to send more assistance, but with the war, traitors to the Jedi's cause, and Sith assassins, the Jedi forces have dwindled in numbers. Accepting the mission, we set off for our next planet. Near the Emon Hawk, something seems to be bothering Bastila, so we talk with her. Continues our conversation from earlier and agrees that there is a bond between her and the playable character. Afterwards, a cutscene plays and shows the Admiral and Darth Malak talking about capturing Bastila. That's when Calo Nord reveals he did not die in Terrace and is working on a contract with Malak. You'll have to be extra careful to not get ambushed. First place we will go looking for clues is Kashyyyk, homeworld of the Wookiees. Decided to bring out Zalbar since he'd be a guiding hand on this world. He advises us that he was forced out a long time ago and we need to be cautious. We are going through and talking with the various NPCs, collecting information and quest lines, talk about the elephant in the room. This game is getting up there in age. It's quite apparent. Similar to me, I guess. Anyways, I want to explain why this was. I'm playing KOTOR 1 and 2 using an Xbox One as an emulator. Even though it's on newer hardware, it is meant for the original Xbox, and the TV and game hardware was limited. Because of this, the game is almost window-like. Personally, I quite enjoy the feeling of the original, but I plan to in the future to do some modded content when I get a second PC. For now though, we are doing some vanilla content. We'll ultimately make things much more smoother when we do mods. I mentioned earlier that I wouldn't be covering everything in this video since it would be multiple hours long. I wanted to focus on the mainline stuff. On the earlier sections of this video, I definitely talked a bit more about the side stuff. It ultimately was to showcase the game for those unfamiliar alongside being interesting. Let me know if you enjoy these longer videos, and I'll continue the trend for the upcoming KOTOR 2 Melee video. For now though, let's start to focus more on the main quest line. Going to the Zerka Corporation outpost, we ask what their purpose is in the state of Kashyyyk. He explains the dark and twisted torture of Wookiees and using them for the workforce. Zalbar is clearly upset by his mannerisms. We'll have to see the extent of their involvement on this planet. Getting to the walkways, Zalbar stops us and restates how him being here is not the best since he was previously exiled. We say that we will cross that boat once we get there. As we were trying to move forward, a few Zerka Corporation members say that they had to put down a Wookiee since it got a little rebellious, as the captain likes to say it. At this point, we are given this option with Zalbar. Progressing along the walkways, we come into contact with numerous Kinrath creatures, then a group of Dark Jedi. Regular variants of the Kinrath aren't anything special, but we will soon witness the horrifying Viper Kinraths. The Dark Jedi put up a surprisingly tough fight. This is the point in the game where the status effects, especially the more frustrating ones like Fear, are going to be tough to combat with no buffs or equipable items. Nearby, a Wookiee recognizes Zalbar to be a Mad Claw and says that we must see Chundar immediately or there will be consequences. Entering the Wookiee camp, Zalbar and Chundar start start to bicker, and it becomes apparent that they are brothers. As the conversation goes on, Chundar says that things have been different with him as a leader, such as having Zerka Corporation protection, though Zalbar does not approve. Chundar reveals that another Madclaw has gone rampant in the lower levels of Kashyyyk, forces us to eliminate him. He does this by holding Zalbar hostage, while we go on our expedition. Leaving the Wookiee camp, we set our sights on the lower levels. First, we need to get to the local elevator. This was a quick walk past some more Kinraths and other native creatures. Speaking with a Wookiee, he slowly lowers the basket down. Right as we touch down, Calo Nord ambushes us alongside a few Wookiees, aiming to take us down. Calo expresses some disdain for us, and so we taunt him.
Use your aggressive feelings, boy. Let the hate flow through you.
Battle eventually breaks out. The fight ended up being super straightforward. I think that is the interesting thing about this first game. Blasters, the difficulty progressively got more challenging as we went further throughout the game. Melee only, on the other hand, feels very scattershot, with random encounters and fights being difficult, rather than it steadily getting more challenging. I think this is because of a few reasons. Melee weapons are able to deflect blaster bolts alongside contesting enemies' melee damage. This is compared to the ranged run, where my only defense against bolts and melee damage was hoping the enemy would miss, though the armor also helped. Kashyyyk surface, we come across new fauna, quest lines, and NPCs as we search for the next star map fragment. Jolee Bindo is someone we meet on our journey, and is a retired Jedi. I do enjoy the dialogue interaction between him and the player. It's hilarious to hear. Jolee offers to get us to the star map fragment, but only if we are able to relocate a nearby group of workers. Accept his offer and then set off. As I was exploring, I completed various side quests such as the Merchant's Alibi, alongside the missing Wookiee whose lifeless body can be found. Ultimately, we talk with Zerka Corporation, attempting to negotiate with them, so they can move on, leaving Jolee alone. Decided that while I could relocate them, I could do the more dark-sided quest of defeating them, so that's what I ended up doing.
Good. I can feel your anger.
Jolee was not happy in the end, but agreed to join our squad and continue helping with the star map fragment. Because we have Jolee in our squad, we are able to bypass the shield barrier that the Zerka Corporation recently built, and are able to progress further towards the map fragment. As we are doing this, we come across Freyr, and learn he is Zalbar's father. This is the Madclaw that Chundar told us to eliminate, aka his father. Decided to keep his father alive since I know for a fact that the player receives Baka's blade afterwards, unlike the more dark-sided choice, which I am unfamiliar with. Since we are keeping him alive, he vows to help us overthrow his son Chundar. From collecting the hilt to Baka's blade, to taking down some Mandalorians, there's a lot of fun to be had on Kashyyyk, easily one of my favorite Star Wars locations. Subsequently, I made my way to the star map fragment. This is an interesting console, since this is the only one that talks to the player. I've gone through the game a few times, but have not received this ending or interaction before, so it's quite neat. It was interesting to see the console actually send out droids to defend itself. Those droids are insanely damaging, like they melted my team in mere seconds. Ultimately, I had to figure out the best way to handle them. Doesn't help that I'm using Jolee, and him having the health of a wet paper towel. Jolee is much better as a Jedi support rather than an actual fighter. I had the playable character and Canderous focus fire in one target at a time until we were in the clear. Afterwards, the star map fragment is unlocked. We gain the next piece of the puzzle. Final thing to do on Kashyyyk is rescuing Zalbar while taking down Chundar. Freyr joins us from earlier. He made a sword using Baka's blade, but Chundar still has Baka's hilt. Clearly, there is no ending where the three of them can be happy together, so a fight breaks loose. In the end, with Chundar defeated, Freyr offers Zalbar the complete Baka's blade. Now, the Wookiees are free of Chundar's reign of terror. As we're heading to the Ebon Hawk, Freyr and the other Wookiees help us push the Zerka Corporation off planet. The Wookiee sees us before we leave and mentions that no other humans will be coming to Kashyyyk for a long time, but our playable characters and our allies are more than welcome. The next planet we will go searching for a star map fragment is Tatooine. As we approach the planet, we get another vision, and this time the fragment is deep within a cave or something. Interesting. You'll have to look around for clues. Arriving on the planet, I visited one of the many merchants and sold a fair amount of items that were useless or against the rules, such as blasters, grenades, and stims. This gave me enough money to purchase better healing options such as advance and life support packs. Because we need to figure out where the star map fragment is, I went around talking with the various people, learning various pieces of information. Picking up new quest lines would aid me cash and knowledge wise, so it's a win-win. As we were going around talking with Zerka Corporation, the swoop races, and beyond, take a moment to talk about the run. How has melee only fared, and has it been doable? Well, things have been extremely straightforward, or the complete opposite, which is nearly impossible. Found that the melee only run varies in its difficulty, compared to blasters, which is an ever-climbing battle. Dark side has fueled our expeditions, though at times the light side tries yanking us back. Damage has been high, but surprisingly not as much as a blaster. Since we are not able to use extra equipables, it's become even more apparent that the stun and fear abilities will shred through my team, since they have very little defense for the status effects. While there is still about half the game to go, it's nice to take a moment and analyze the run, noting what occurred and didn't. We'll touch base again shortly. Exiting the town, we see sand, and even more sand.
I don't like sand. It's coarse and rough and irritating, and it gets everywhere.
From a local Tuscan ambush where the player needs to defend townsfolk, to a large beast, there were lots of enemies to take down. But like wherever I would look, another Tuscan ambush was being sent my way. Further on the sandy plains of Tatooine, we eliminated all the Tuscan warriors, scribes, and beyond.
What have I done?
This lets me obtain a bunch of XP alongside getting some sweet rewards. Last thing we will do on the planet is find and collect the star map fragment. The player is able to do this when a Twi'lek man is spotted and a quest line is initiated. Essentially, there's a large crate dragon resting, and so we must lull it out if we want the star map fragment. Both of us have separate goals, but we both need the dragon out of there, so we work together. First, we must get some banthas herded here. We'll make the dragon want to leave. This section was difficult since like 10 Tuscan warriors were sent for the 3 of us. Needless to say, yeah, we took quite a bit of damage here. Once we get the crate dragon lured outside, the explosives go off and we receive 2 great rewards. Crate dragon pearl, which is a lightsaber modifier, alongside the second star map fragment. Now, as we were leaving Tatooine, I'll quickly say that I glanced over the fact that we have acquired HK-47. This isn't because I dislike the droid or anything. I actually really enjoy his sarcastic and blunt humor. Rather, it's because HK-47 can't use any melee weapons and is purely range focus. This is similar to T3, them only being useful for a range blaster build. As we are approaching Manan, the 3rd planet we will explore, we get a short cutscene with Darth Malak and the Admiral. The Admiral pleads with Malak to forgive him, and Malak instead points the blame at Calo Nord for his failure. Instead of sending another bounty hunter, he sends his apprentice to do his dirty work, Darth Bandon. Every time I get to this point, I will never forget my first playthrough, where I read it as Brandon and was like, really? That's the Darth name you chose? Approaching the planet, we get a small vision with a location of the star map. This one appears to be on the ocean floor, which doesn't narrow things down, since nearly the entire planet of Manan is an ocean. Leaving the ship with Zalbar and Canderous, we can see right away the hostile nature of being on Manan. Republic and Sith soldiers are forced to be friendly as the Kolto business is major credits. Kolto is a medicinal compound that only grows on Manan, so neutrality between the Sith and Republic is necessary for good business. The Sith troopers clearly exploit the system, more so than the Republic, but neither are innocent, it seems. During the city, I surprisingly got this new questline that I'd never seen before. I was always curious about the Arbiter's quarters on Manan, and was never allowed in there. Especially after playing, the Halo games, I was like, oh, you're gonna see Master Chief too? I'm always happy to witness something different. If I had to imagine why, it's because I went to Kashyyyk first to get Jolee, and went to Manan near the end. My first 2 playthroughs, I followed a very similar path, so this playthrough / challenge, I wanted to switch things up. I'm certainly glad I did, so I could experience something new. Let's just say, in KOTOR 2, I ended up finding something major for the first time, which I was so hyped about, and once we get to that script, I'm going to be going hard on that. Manan is an interesting planet, and out of the other locations has some of the most riveting dialogue in the game. The only thing I would criticize about this planet, which ties into the challenge run, is how little combat there is here. Rather, this is a much more dialogue-driven area. Because of this, I feel things would be quite tough to watch, so it would be uninteresting. Rather, let's talk about the later combat section. If you're interested in seeing the Manan side quests, alongside the other quest lines in the game, make sure to check out the VODs channel. I'll link that below. Similar to Tatooine, Manan also has a swoop racing tournament. The difference between the two, besides the obvious such as the change of track location, is that Manan is like 50 times harder. It needs to be played near perfection. Needless to say, I played through that race at least 10 plus times, just trying to get a good time. Eventually the playable character and his allies are required to go into the Sith base and recover a part that was stolen from a Republic sensor. The data is crucial to them. By this point, our characters have some of the best armor and weapons that the game has. Fiddling with the modifiers and the weapons and armor, I was able to get some really great generate bonuses, such as the playable character's armor. He's immune to stun and fear. Super underrated. It became evident that the Sith forces, especially Dark Jedi, love to use those status effects like fear. Because of this, Canderous and Zalbar would be unconscious for like half the fight. Canderous and I would be able to modify our armor to work around this, but Zalbar I am unable to since he's a Wookiee and can't wear any armor. Even if we did have the best armor and weapons, this area changed immensely with each encounter. Certain groups would be piss easy to then getting the most difficult boss fight afterward. I definitely enjoyed the uncertainty of this run. Because we entered the Sith base and located the data crucial to the Republic, they offered to help the player, Zalbar, and Canderous locate the star map fragment. The Republic then allows us to use a submersible vehicle to get to the ocean floor for secret Republic bases. Dear God, this next section, is brutal. Not that it's difficult, but rather extremely slow. Essentially, the player gets a diving suit that walks at the speed of a snail. Actually, the snail might be faster. Seriously though, why did the devs feel that the player would want to do a walking simulator? The only reason I can think of them including this is to make it more realistic, but even then, that's such a stretch. Let me know down below your thoughts on this. Do you dislike or like it, or do you not care whatsoever? I'd be really interested to hear. Before we are able to interact with the star map fragment, the player is given a choice. The giant drill that the Republic research facility has been using can be turned off, or a deadly toxin can be added. Why does the player need to do this, skilled fawn? Well, because there's a massive shark swimming in the nearby waters, almost protecting the map piece. Ultimately, I decided to insert the deadly toxin, since this would be the dark side choice of the two. As a result, we are able to view the star map fragment. I'll talk about the downsides shortly. Escaping the Republic research facility, Darth Bandon and the Sith forces halt us from going any further. Bandon loves using AoE force moves, and so my team's health was getting siphoned left and right. In the end, we defeat him. I hope by this point Malak learns his lesson. The downside that I mentioned earlier to inserting the toxic chemicals is that we are never allowed to return to Manon, as that shark is almost like a godly icon for the Manon people, and yeah, we basically just killed it. As we are leaving Manon, we are caught in a tractor beam from the Leviathan, aka Saul Kareth's vessel, Karth's old mentor. Before we get interrogated, the crew of the Ebon Hawk gather together and think of a plan to get out of this mess. In the end, it is decided that Canderous should lead the rescue mission since he can exploit his healing ability. In interrogation, Saul Kareth welcomes and taunts us. Karth and Saul talk about the attack that killed his wife, and ultimately, Karth can never forgive his choices. He then states that Lord Malak is far more interested in Bastila and the playable character. Kareth forces us to answer his questions, as he would like to kill us, but he says Malak may want to question us, given the trouble we've caused him, and the history between us. This is interesting to say the least, but for now, we need to escape. To escape, we need to use Canderous and save Bastila, Karth, and the playable character from certain demise. Once our allies are safe, we plan a mission to strike the Admiral while he's still on the bridge. Eventually, we made our way to the bridge. Here we can find the Admiral alongside some Sith troopers and Dark Jedi. This area I've known to be arduous and troublesome in previous playthroughs. This time was no exception. I had to menu heal more often than usual, alongside pausing to ensure Bastila and the playable character were not using any force powers. That has been one of the reasons that Karth and Canderous have been selected previously. Basically, I have to worry about force powers being used, and so the less force users, the less chance of it occurring. Sooner or later, we take down the Admiral, and in his final few moments, he asks to talk with Karth. In his final words, he laughs at Karth's negligence and naivety. We ask what it is that was said, but we don't have time now, with Darth Malak arriving shortly. One thing I want to quickly talk about is melee only versus blasters only, and how each challenge has fared. I think by this point we conclude that melee only has been a lot more straightforward than blasters only run. While there have been tough moments, we have been able to power through it all. It is evident that melee only works fairly well, but is far from the most optimal playstyle. We have to see what the rest of the game has in store for us. Ultimately, we come face to face with Darth Malak. This is the point where the story really starts to unfold, and in a good way. I'll let some of it play because damn is it epic, and my words just could not do it any justice.
Besides, I had to see for myself if it was true. Even now, I can hardly believe my eyes. Tell me, why did the Jedi spare you? Is it vengeance you seek? As is the outcome. I am actually surprised this confrontation did not happen sooner, given how powerful your mind once was. Even the combined power of the Jedi Council couldn't keep your true identity buried forever, could it?
The Jedi do not believe in killing their prisoners. No one deserves execution, no matter what their crimes.
The Council would not normally accept an adult for training, but this is a special case.
They say the Force can do terrible things to a mind. It can wipe away your memories and destroy your very identity.
Tatooine. Akashic. Manan. Korriban. Revan visited each of these worlds searching for clues to reveal the hidden location of the Starforge.
The lure of the dark side is difficult to resist. I fear this quest to find the Starforge could lead you down an all too familiar path.
What greater weapon is there than to turn an enemy to your cause, to use their own knowledge against them?
Yeah, we are actually Darth Revan, Malik's old master, which was such a cool twist that I didn't expect on my first playthrough. I think this is one of the many reasons why I'll always enjoy the first game more so than the second. Though I really enjoyed the improved combat and mechanics in the second, the first game's story is unmatched in my opinion. I'm curious to hear your thoughts. You enjoyed the twist with Darth Revan? What's the better KOTOR game, 1 or 2? Very interested to see your comments below. As we are leaving the Leviathan, Bastila sacrifices herself so that Karth and Revan can escape to the Ebon Hawk. Oh Bastila, how noble the action. Back on the ship, the crew and Revan talk about recent events, especially the elephant in the room, with them finding out our true identity. Karth is skeptical that we will go back to the dark side. Probably good for Karth to think that, since we actually are. And so we comfort him and the others, reinforcing the idea that we won't turn. But we most definitely will. One of the final planets we will go to in KOTOR is Korriban, one of the homeworlds of the Sith. Decided to go here last since the end section of this questline can be brutal, so I want to be extra prepared. Another reason was that here I can fully indulge in the dark side. Might as well do this last. Some of you guys might remember Belia. It was that Jedi I mentioned to remember from near the beginning. It's an interesting questline, but essentially, since she lost her friend Juhani, she turns to the dark side with the end goal of avenging her death. Definitely wasn't the brightest bulb though, since she ended up fighting a 1v3. And yeah, it was not in her favor. Sooner or later, we make it to the Sith Academy, and this is easily one of my favorite parts of Korriban, possibly KOTOR 1 as a whole. The Sith Trials ask the player to recount the Sith tenets alongside proving loyalty to the Sith cause. After a brief introduction, Uthara speaks with us privately. States that help is needed as she wishes to betray her master, rising as the new leader of the Sith Academy. It's said to help, and she states that during our final trial is when we will strike. Subsequently, I went around and completed the various quest lines, that I would gain enough prestige. There's some really awesome quest lines to do here, from interrogating a Sith prisoner to entering the various tombs. There are countless ways to collect prestige. I ended up completing the tomb of Ajunta Paul for the first time in this playthrough. Previously, I had only done the other 3 tombs, and never went fully through this one. Makes sense for the previous blasters only challenge, but since we're doing a melee only run, I want to possibly get a better melee weapon alongside experiencing something new. Hearing Ajunta Paul at the end of the tomb was extremely interesting. It's cool that the player had to select the correct weapon from the tomb, as there were a few fakes. Because we have collected enough prestige and completed most of the quest lines here, I went back to Uthar and relayed the information. Ultimately, he's impressed by our work and skill. Soon we will have the chance to complete our Sith training alongside finding the last star map fragment. Oh gosh, the final Sith trial. This is both extremely fun and yet tedious. Let me explain. There's some awesome sections with really tough enemies. If we were doing this solo, it proved difficult but so satisfying. Next, there are a few puzzles that the player needs to complete. This one specific one feels like an eternity complete. Needless to say, I was here for a while. At the end, we come across the Sith statue. We're able to get our very own Sith lightsaber, even though by this point we have had ours for a while. Then I interacted with the star map to ultimately reveal the location to the Starforge. For now though, we need to complete our training. Returning to the Sith Masters, Uthar commends us for our bravery and commitment to the Sith ideology. Eventually, he orders us to kill Uthara, while she states that we agreed to help her. Battle ensues, and both of these fools fall. For I, Darth Revan, am the true Lord of the Sith. Approaching the academy, some students are are confused when we return alone. They question us, and we simply state that we are Darth Revan and they need to fall in line or fall in the sand. In the end, we take down all the Sith students. Then we head back to the Ebon Hawk to leave Korriban once and for all. Before we head to the Star Forge, I want to make sure I was really prepared for these final two areas. Heading to the Yavin space station alongside Tatooine, I collected better armor and healing materials. Advanced packs and life support packs were the most desired by this point. At the end, I had 2 full slots of 99 advanced packs and about 20 miscellaneous med packs. As we draw near to the Star Forge, a cutscene plays showing Darth Malak whetting Bastila's appetite for the dark side as she slowly turns away from the light. Then the Star Forge itself is shown with it sucking the life out of a nearby star, alongside countless Sith ships. Darth mentions he will contact the Republic, and hopefully they can get one good shot at destroying the thing. Then the ship starts going haywire and plummets down to the planet below due to the power being fiddled with. We'll have to figure out the source of this disturbance. Arriving on the beach, numerous Rakaton enemies start to attack us, and as we go further along the pathway. Eventually we come across 2 groups of Rakatons. One is more simplistic and primal, while the other is more sophisticated and has technology at their disposal. Both ask the player to remove the other group, aka take them all out. Usually I go with the light-sided choice, aka the Elders in this instance, but we will be following the more primal Rakatons, aka the One. Heading into the other compound with the Rakatons, we take them down one at a time as per instructed. It's a bloodbath. Then afterwards we claim the relic that was desired by the other Rakatons. Going back and speaking with the One, he is happy to hear of our conquest alongside receiving the tome, relic they so desired. After reading through the tome, we are called back in, learn about what was written there. For instance, the Elders were not keepers of the secrets, rather they were just guardians to it. Conversing with the One some more, we learn that to deactivate the array that knocked our ship out of the sky, we must go inside that sacred temple. Cutscene plays with Darth Malak, showing how messed up his face is after Revan taught him a lesson. I highly recommend if you haven't seen the KOTOR Malak fan film to check that out after this. It's such a solid fan film and easily better than some of the things Disney has put out recently. Entering the temple with Jolee, we go around investigating the rooms and destroying the Sith troops along the way. The lower levels of the temple is a console that communicates with Revan, talks about the history of the Rakaton people. From the construction of the Star Forge to the vast empire they had, Rakaton people are quite interesting. There's so much more that the console talks about, and so I implore you to check out the VODs channel if you'd like to hear more. This is about the point in the game where things really start to change from the Blasters only run. While there have been differences as we've been progressing, this is where the light and dark side paths really start to diverge. At the top of the temple we can find Bastila, consumed by the dark side. Speaking with her, the player normally would deny the dark side, to then save her on the Star Forge. Not this time. Instead, she praises Darth Revan for his power, saying that before we were interrogated by the Jedi, we were ultra powerful. She wishes to follow that Revan. Bastila states that we are connected because when we almost died on that bridge, Bastila preserved our life, forever linking each other. Ultimately, we accept. But yeah, Jolee is not too happy about that, and so we are forced to take him down. Dear gosh, this next section is so grim and dark that it is actually quite sad to think about, even more so writing about it. These characters, it's like damn, you feel Karth and Mission's voice actors giving it their all. Basically, Revan and Bastila give the remaining crew members a choice. Surrender to the dark side or die where you stand. Canderous, T3, and HK-47 agree to stand with us, but Mission and Karth stand against us. Ultimately, it's just down to Mission, since Karth is able to get away. It's so sad, but we unfortunately have to take down Mission and Zalbar as well. Yeah, that was something to say the least. Well, the next thing is the complete opposite. It's definitely not supposed to be funny, but the animation of Revan's face is so poorly done that it makes it almost comical. Reminds me a lot of that shit face that Rykard makes in that famous meme. I'll let this next part play because it's just so dang hilarious.
Fools. Even Master Vandar did not realize you've reclaimed your identity as the Dark Lord. The Jedi strike team and the Republic forces will provide the perfect distraction as we hunt down your ex-apprentice. And once we have slain Malak, I can use my battle meditation and the power of the Star Forge to crush the Republic fleet. All our enemies will be destroyed in a single glorious day.
Oh, no.
Final thing we will do in the KOTOR Melee Only challenge is getting to the Star Forge and taking down Darth Malak. As we are going through, let's analyze and reflect on the run as a whole. Melee Only has been straightforward throughout most of the run. There were more than a few sections where things got extremely challenging, but nonetheless was easier than a Blasters Only run. That is surprising too though, because in this run we were using no equipables besides armor, buffs, and passive force powers compared to the Blasters run, where those were all available. It goes to show how much more difficult Blasters Only are to Melee. melee. Not being able to use force heal meant I had to be a bit better about credit spending, ensuring I had an emergency supply to get heals. I've only done the light side ending in this game so far, and this dark side ending has been a wild ride of awesome yet extremely sad moments. We'll have to see what the final few cutscenes has in store for us. At last, we come face to face with Darth Malak, our old apprentice, and a fight ensues. One thing about a blasters or melee only challenge is that the player is unable to take down the Jedi bodies around the edge. Because of this, the player has to endure like a 10-phase boss fight with Malak. Yeah, dear gosh, this was already a tough situation, and what's that? Already getting low on heals? Yeah, this is not looking good to say the least. Malak deals insane damage, sometimes upwards of 100 plus. So yeah, I had to heal at the wazoo. After a fun but long fight, we take Darth Malak down. His final words, Malak agrees that Revan is the true Dark Lord of the Sith. Then Malak's life ends, as he knew it would, in darkness. Final few cutscenes play, showing that the Starforge's fleet, alongside Bastila's battle meditation, is far superior to anything the Republic can handle. Just like that, the Republic forces get destroyed. Bastila and the Sith forces praise the rightful return of the true heir to the dark side, claiming the Republic and Jedi Order is in tatters. Such a cool cutscene, I must admit. The last thing we see in the game is the Starforge's fleets ready to take the fight to the Republic, finishing them once and for all. This has been KOTOR beaten with melee only. This has been such an awesome journey and challenge to go through. I have to say, I really enjoy writing and editing these KOTOR scripts, though it often takes a bit longer since this was a lot more going on than your average game. Let me know, do you enjoy these longer videos and challenges, or should I continue to make shorter types of content? I'd be interested to hear. You guys really enjoyed the first rounds of KOTOR challenge runs, so I wanted to say thank you to everyone with another series. Thank you guys for your awesome support, and I'm forever grateful. Let me know if you have any KOTOR challenges you'd like to see me attempt. In the future, I plan to do force powers only. This would ultimately lead to fists only if it is even possible. And I've had a few of you guys actually comment and give some challenge runs, so I'll probably start going through those as well. Thank you for watching the video. Make sure to hit the like button, comment, and subscribe if you haven't already. It greatly helps to support me and the channel, alongside pushing the video to others who may be interested. Try to do something kind for someone today, whether it's a small or large gesture. This is your boy, Skilled Fawn, and I'm out.